Now that we have exported our data, I would like to cover another data type that you might come across. So in this case, we loaded our drilling data and processed that within RMSP in order to get our composites. But sometimes you might have point data that does not require compositing. So it's not color or assay or survey. It's just raw point data, coordinates in the space. And you want to load that into RMSP. So I will demonstrate that using the composite data file that we just saved. So again, we can call it, say, loaded comps equals to, and we are going to use pandas breed CSV again for this. So we saved that at the output folder. So if I press tab, I should see all the files we saved there, and we're looking for that CSV. So I can do a .head and look at the data. Now that I have loaded the data and looked at the data, what we can do is to do RMSP.PointData. So this is the data container within RMSP for holding just the spatial coordinates. The required metadata for this data type is X coordinate, which in this case is X. So that's the middle of the composite, and Y equals Y, and Z equals Z. So this is the minimum requirement. One thing that we can provide drill hole ID. Let's do that. And we can actually provide from to and all the start intervals and end intervals. But this is the minimal information, the coordinate, and we are doing one extra, which is the drill hole ID. So now if I run this cell, I have loaded this composites as point data. So I have access to the same type of functionality from the geodata frame. Say I want to check value range and show meta equals true. So we can see all the information that has been loaded from that data. One thing that I would like to show is that remember that when we save the CSV file, we have defined some negative numbers for the missing data. I'll keep it that way for now, but one thing that we can do now is to inspect more deeply what we have in this data. So unfortunately, for point data, we don't have such nice tools like check that we have for the color, assay, and survey. And that's because point data can be many things. So we do not really know what to check specifically. But luckily, there is a function within RMSP, which is called inspect types and values, which can be very useful in this scenario. And I will actually, I'll just run that and see what we get. So here what we can see is that it's finding some float data, and for that float, which means continuous variables, it's telling us something important about it. It found some negative numbers. So yeah, this is a concern because, well, again, copper, density, those things cannot be negative. And it's telling me that it found a categorical data and is showing some of the categorical codes, which seem fine. So the only issue that I'm seeing here right now is that we have some negative numbers that we need to take care of. So let me copy it from here and just handle it above. So whenever I create this point data, what I can actually do is specify the missing like we did above. So now I specified the missing. If I just reload that data, and first of all, on my summary statistics, I don't see any negative number anymore for the minimum values. And if I inspect the data types again, the only thing that's showing is that we have a categorical variable and the categorical codes, so that's fine. So this is a very useful function that you can use with point data for inspecting your data types. And with this, we conclude this notebook, and we are going to be jumping into the next notebook where we are going to be loading mesh data, solids, and doing some more visualization.